Hi everybody, we're back with turn 3 of Jedko's War at Sea. This will be the fall of 1940. So we can see the strategic situation. Have one German ship oiled in the North Atlantic that can go anywhere. A large number of Axis ships in the neutral port that will have to sail. So we're going to try and, as well as the two Russian battleships that can only go in the Baltic. A huge discrepancy in points in favor of the Axis. So the Allies are faced with a strategic withdrawal of the Mediterranean to try and seize the Atlantic Ocean back from Axis control. Much of these ships in the Mediterranean will have to make a speed roll just to get back to the South Atlantic, and I expect, well, at least half of them will probably fail that roll and wind up stuck in the neutral port for one turn. But the priority is to get back some of these victory points, and the only way to do that is to wrest control of the Atlantic Ocean north and south from the Axis, as well as protect the convoys that will start to sail from the United States. And I'm going to try with the Allies to deliver them to Russia, so they each one will be at sea for 2 turns, 1 turn in the North Atlantic and then 1 turn in the Barents before it can land in the Russia port for a score of 3 points. I think that's the only way that the Allies can get back in this game in terms of point totals. They will have to deliver those convoys for 3 points apiece, as well as have the majority of the sea zones. Germans get the Tirpitz and another U-boat, and the Allies get Duke of York's battleship Victorious aircraft carrier and the convoy 1A. So I'm going to try and have an arrangement of ships that protects the North Atlantic convoy, and then the South Atlantic, obviously, I have to make sure that that is covered in such a way that it takes into account the likelihood that a lot of the ships from the Mediterranean won't be able to make it there in one turn. So you have to spread out the aircraft carriers carefully. Basically, the Allies are going to evacuate the Mediterranean Sea to cover 3 sea zones. And that's the evacuation of the Mediterranean is temporary. It's not going to be a permanent thing. The Allies plan on getting back, especially within 4 turns, because if you don't have any presence in the Mediterranean for 4 consecutive turns, then the Italian fleet doesn't get broken up on turn 8. So the Allies will also evacuate the Barents Sea temporarily, since there's no real reason to contest it until the first convoy arrives there on turn 4. It's going to be a tricky balancing act for the Allies here. You don't like to give up sea zones because they're worth more to the Axis than they are to the Allies, but the Allies haven't been very lucky with die rolls thus far, so they're scrambling for sure to make up points. Also, the arrangement of forces for the Allies on turn 3 will also consider the speed rolls, and the only speed rolls I want to be doing are from the slower, older battleships coming from the Mediterranean to the South Atlantic. I don't want to be worrying about speed rolls getting into the Barents, and it's just, I'm not sure. I'm kind of torn about contesting the Barents with the Allies, but the Mediterranean fleet is going to now move to the South Atlantic. You have to remember they actually originate from Malta, even though I left them in the Mediterranean Sea, which leaves a 2-space distance they have to cover. So you can see I'm doing the rolls here. Millie's didn't make it. Royal Sovereign makes it. Roll for Revenge here. Really stand much of a chance. I'm getting lucky so far, so we're doing the Malaya now. Does it make it? Got to roll under the speed value of the ship. And the next one is the Valiant. So roll the dice, and doesn't make it. I estimated about half of them wouldn't, so hopefully the Resolution will here. And no, it doesn't. That's unfortunate. But you can see the Devonshire and Renown must sail, otherwise they would lose points, 1 apiece. Even though, I'm at the maximum losing threshold for the Allies, I want to try and get the Renown back to England so it can repair its damage. Although, yeah, you could make the argument that it could just stay put in the neutral port for one more turn where it's safe. I'm not expecting to claw back the point differential this turn. I'm just looking for a strategic redeployment that will set me up for landing the first convoy in Russia, and then on the 4th turn perhaps start clawing the points back where you have that 3-point bonus for successfully delivering the convoys. They're very hard for the Axis to stop, actually, because if you engage a fleet that has a convoy, every single ship has to be damaged or destroyed before you can attack the convoy. So it's a tougher screen than just the aircraft carriers where every ship has to be engaged. With the convoys, no, every ship has to be damaged before you can launch an attack on the convoys. So this is going to be the arrangement of forces for the Allies going into the 3rd turn. Okay, so you can see the German ships are coming out of the neutral port now. You're removing all their disabled values. These ships must sail, otherwise it will incur a -1 point of control, or victory point per ship if they remain in a neutral port for more than a turn. So you can see this is a tricky strategic dilemma for the Axis, because the Allies still control the North Sea. It's splitting the Axis fleet. Like the Bismarck and Gneisenau cannot really work in tandem with the ships coming out of Germany. They just can't reach each other this turn. The Tirpitz, should probably just claim the Barents, and the Lutzow should claim the Baltic Sea, because the stuff coming out of Germany can't really seriously challenge what's in the North Atlantic, even with the Prince Eugen that can be placed anywhere that's successfully oiled. I'm not even sure if the U-boats will help in this situation. I'll put them there tentatively. I'm not sure where the Prince Eugen's going to go. It's obviously I'm not going to leave it in the North Atlantic just to get destroyed. This is a tough one. Obviously the Gneisenau and the Bismarck will sail into the South Atlantic to help with all the ships coming out of... Yeah, I'll just move it south, Prince Eugen south. I'll have a big battle in the South Atlantic. We're actually one of the few sea zones where the Germans and the Allies can outnumber the British. So I think that's the best play for the Axis, because they can actually overload the screen and attack the Victorious and the Formidable with ships directly, because they 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, they can actually get through that screen. So I'll remove that flag. The Barents will be Axis for one turn. So yeah, just if you eyeball the strategic situation and the points that are showing, you can tell that the Allies aren't, trying to claw back the point differential on this turn. They're just trying to set themselves up for turn 4 when that convoy can land in Russia. Hopefully. They have to survive the Barents. It's harder for the British to get there, because they have to make die rolls with anything below a 7 speed. It's too distance from England. Okay, so the German land-based air doesn't have anything to attack except for the ships in Leningrad that failed to sail. You know what? I'm going to move the wolf packs out of the North Atlantic Ocean and put them in the North Sea. Hopefully that will... Well, they'll have a greater survivability. They only have to face 1 aircraft carrier there instead of 2. And if 1 survives, that will uncontrol the North Sea. And then in that situation, the Axis will have basically unlimited options in terms of where they want to deploy. North Sea is a crucial sea zone, so if there's ever a chance to have it uncontrolled due to Wolfpack presence, yeah, I have to take it. So this is more strategic considerations as opposed to destroying units. So we're doing the ASW rolls. And you can see the Ark Royal got 1. It gets 3 ASW rolls. That's unlucky. So the Germans are going to lose a wolf pack. And now we're going to do the ASW for the remaining units. King George. So 2 of the Wolfpack survive, and I think they'll team up on the Ark Royal. So that actually worked out for the Axis, because the North Sea will be uncontrolled, technically, allowing the German ships to basically move anywhere they want to. And the 2 remaining Italian cruisers. So we'll do the U-boats. They miss, and they actually got a disable result on the Ark Royal, but there's no surface combat in that area, so it's the U-boats did their job in the North Sea. Doesn't seem like it, but it makes a big difference if the North Sea is uncontrolled. So we'll take the British flag off there. The Union Jack comes off, and put the swords down. Okay, so next is going to be the air combat phase. So the Germans will only get 2 rolls because you can't double up on targets. So the first is a miss on the Merit, and the second on the October Revolution is another miss. So the British will do their favorite move. They'll just attack the Conti de Cavour Julius Caesar. So first one's a miss. Second's a miss. British are just getting horrific luck with their land-based air. It's just awful. I don't think they've done anything significant. So the very next step is to take care of the naval-based air power. And the British will get 4 rolls in the South Atlantic, 2 with the Formidable and 2 with the Victorious. And we're going to target the Bismarck, the Gneisenau, the Scharnhorst, and I haven't decided what we'll do now. Graf Spee, maybe? Okay, yeah, so we'll do the Formidable first against the Bismarck. Miss, of course. Formidable against the Scharnhorst. Ooh, 6. So you have to roll for damage. Give me a big number here. 4. Significant damage to the Scharnhorst. That's not good for the Germans. And then the Victorious is Swordfish, Gneisenau, miss. Admiral Graf Spee, miss. Better than nothing, I guess. And then we'll have to do the pairings. So this is going to be tough to decide. Obviously, I can't get all of the Axis ships, but the Renown is something weak, I guess, because it only has 1 combat factor, since it's got maximum damage. Maybe put the Bismarck against the Nelson. No, I'll go with the Scharnhorst. We have to make sure it sinks. Yeah, the other things don't really matter. I don't think it's ever wrong to really target the smaller ships. I know a lot of people will disagree with me, but like I said, it's important to be taking the Axis counters off the map. I mean, yeah, you always want to attack a couple of the big ones, but anyway, we'll go with the Renown and see if it can actually do something here with its single roll. Ooh, gets it disabled on the Grizia. Devonshire against Fume. Miss. Here's an important roll. We need 5 dice here. For the Nelson. Oh, wow. Look at that. 3 hits and a disabled. So it's going to be destroyed. Yeah, it can't. Even if they're 1s, it's still destroyed. Because they take it to 5, 6, yeah. Another cool feature that I didn't realize, what you can do is you increase the damage over the defensive factor of the unit, and it'll just give you a sunk indication, which is cool. I didn't realize that. Anyway, so Royal Oak, 4 dice, and that's going to be a disabled result. And then we're going to get the Revenge on the Blue Shire. Let me see hits here. That's a disabled and a hit. So you need to roll above a 2 to sink it. It gets a 3. So, ooh. Blue Shire gets sunk. And we'll do the Royal Sovereign against the Bismarck. 4 dice. A disable and 2 disable and 1 hit. So it's going to survive. With how much damage though? Oh, 1. So superficial damage. But now this is the painful part, because Axis get to return fire and they can overwhelm the British screen and engage the carriers directly, provided they have everything else under fire. So it'll take a couple seconds to set up. The British really have to pray that the Germans get unlucky here, honestly. This could go really bad. But we'll see. Bismarck's going to go after the Nelson, sorry. Not the Rodney. Scharnhorst go after the Royal Sovereign. Put the Grass B in the Blue Shire against the Victorious. And the Sheer will go after the Formidable. Okay, so Gorizia against the Renown. That's a miss, because it's Italian. Doesn't get the targeting bonus. Fume gets a Devonshire. That's a miss. Okay, the Bismarck against the Nelson. This is going to be interesting. 4 dice. So that's a damage and a disabled. So how much damage? A 2. Okay, so they're both out of it now. They've both fired once. Okay, so the Prince Eugen against the Royal Oak. It's a miss. That will be to the neutral port. And 3 dice against the Revenge for the Nice now, and that's going to be 2 hits. So this is not good. Probably going to sink it right here. Oh, That was lucky. Holy crap. British got really lucky there. 3. Okay, and the Scharnhorst, before it sinks, it's going to get off 3 dice against the Royal Sovereign. And it misses. Wow. The luckless Scharnhorst. And this is the potentially very costly part of the battle. So we'll do all 3 of the attack gun factors. So Victorious got hit. Ooh, lucky again. Only got half destroyed. And then the Shear gets to... Blisher goes to the Davy Jones locker. And then Admiral Shear is going to get 2 rolls against the Formidable. And it misses. Wow. So the Axis are badly outnumbered here. But fortunately, they're faster than the slow British surface ships, except for the Devonshire. But if they retreat, the Devonshire can't pursue it by itself. And the carriers don't have any surface factors. So... yeah, the Axis will withdraw to France. They'll concede the South Atlantic. So that was kind of a costly turn for the Axis. They did no lasting permanent damage to the Royal Navy. But they did uncontrol the North Sea, and that's not insignificant. That's a problem for the Allies. And the Allies will not gain ground on the victory scale either, I don't think. No, because they haven't delivered any convoys, but they will be in a position to deliver a convoy at the end of turn 4, because the convoy piece does not have to... it's the only piece that doesn't have to stop in England. It will just shift over another sea zone automatically into the Barents if you choose to try and land in Russia, which the Allies will probably... well, they're forced to make that trip because they're so down on points. It's going to be very interesting because in order to get back in the game, the Allies will have to try and contest pretty much every sea zone at the exact moment they land convoys in Russia, just to get the scale tilting back in their direction. So I don't know, maybe the fast-moving British ships will try and get back into the Mediterranean. I don't know. The losses are fairly even, but the Axis still has teeth, and they have a huge point advantage, and they have control they uncontrol the North Sea. So despite taking a beating in the latter half of 1940, the game is still up in the air. It's very hard to... the Allied player will have very tough decisions in turn 4. Now they will roll for American ships, but I don't know. I've played games where you don't get 6s. American ships barely ever make a difference. It's weird, but that's almost how it is in the game, a lot of the games I play, and you can't count on the Russians showing up either. So, and the British have had no luck breaking up the Italian fleet in the Mediterranean with airstrikes. So it's very interesting. So we'll see what happens at the start of turn 4. Yeah, it's not enough just to control the Atlantic Ocean, because it's only worth 2 points for the Allies. It has to be the Atlantic plus a convoy delivered to Russia, and maybe the Barents and Mediterranean to start moving the points in a positive direction. So it's tough. It's tough. Anyway, on to turn 4. It's turn 4, spring 1941. A couple of housekeeping items before we start. Rewatching turn 3, I noticed more than a few seconds of ASW rolls were missing from the video, and that was an editing mistake. I double-checked the results, however, and they were sound. The Germans lost 1 Wolfpack, and the British had their aircraft carrier disabled in the North Sea. The result of the action was a contested sea zone. More importantly, I never really provided rationale for the Axis decision to fight the Allies in the South Atlantic as opposed to the North Atlantic, where the 1A convoy deployed. A more daring and bold German admiral, I think, would have fought that battle. I chose the southern option instead for the following reasons. I was mainly concerned about having to make 4 separate speed rolls just to get the Axis task force to its target. Both the Bismarck and Tirpitz, as well as, I think it was the Scheer and Graf Spee, were technically questionable, making the mission. There were 2 British aircraft carriers in the North Atlantic as well to worry about. In the South, I really wanted a chance to sink the damaged Renown. On paper, I had the amount of forces to overwhelm and chase the British out of the sea zone without making any speed rolls, and I brought the carriers under direct fire, but just got unlucky with damage rolls. Had I won the battle, I would have blocked Allied access to the Med for another turn, and that goes a long way toward helping the Italians' cause closer to the endgame. For the Axis, if you can't stop the convoys, the next best thing is to secure or block access to the Med to compensate for heightened Allied point scoring after the convoys appear. Many people watching will argue the North Atlantic was still worth any added risk factors, and I get it. It was a valid option. Anyway, the Axis are still winning with a maximum point lead, so let's see what happens next. So reinforcements for turn 4. There's a second convoy, 2B, that's going to emerge in the North Atlantic. British get another modern battleship, Anson. The Germans get the B aircraft carrier and 2 more submarines. So that 4 Wolfpacks. The Rodney and 4 of the slower old British battleships must sail this turn into the South Atlantic, or at least outside the neutral port, otherwise they will cause point loss, although I mean the British are at a state where they can't lose any more points. But still, you want to get them into the action. Not sure where they will go, either stay put or deploy into the Mediterranean Sea. The Allies are poised to land a convoy in Russia this turn, so I think it's time where they have to go all out to try and claim as many sea zones as possible, as opposed to the last turn where they contracted into 3 spots. Now you really want to try to attrit the Axis. I'm going to do some rolls for the Russian ships. Nothing for the Jean-Paul Marat. And here comes October Revolution. Nothing. So we'll roll for American arrivals in the North Atlantic. So we'll start with the Wichita. Looking for 6. Nope, it's a 5. Ticonderoga. No. Augusta. No. Texas. No. New York. No. In Washington. No. See, I told you before, it's just, I've seen this. You just get unlucky with these rolls, and it really makes things more difficult for the Allies when you don't get help from either the Russians or the Americans. Even token participation would help at this point. So we're going to challenge the Italians finally, get back into the Mediterranean, because you just can't have the Axis control the Med for 4 consecutive turns. That really hurts in the end game if the Italian fleet doesn't get broken up. So we'll just think about what we need to do here. With the British, I always like to have the fastest moving ships in the Barents or Mediterranean, in the 2 zones where you have to move multiple spaces. Obviously, because you don't want negative speed rolls, and it's more significant from turns 3 to 8. If you fail a speed roll in the Barents, you wind up in the Russia port, where it's much less effective repairing damages. The same goes for moving back into the Mediterranean and failing a speed roll. Being stuck in Malta, obviously it has limited repair capacities. So we'll just kind of set up with fast light ships having to travel the farthest. Maybe put the Kent in the Mediterranean. Let's see, Devonshire, Kent, Sussex. No speed rolls there. Bring an aircraft carrier down there, maybe even 2. The Italians have 6 fairly powerful ships at their disposal. And I can't count on the British land-based air to do anything. Hasn't done anything all game, I don't think. Okay, so another 7 fast-moving carrier in the Barents. Yeah, I just can't decide whether I want another. Do I have another 7 available for the Mediterranean? Doesn't look like it. King George V, Anson. Yeah, we want to get the modern battleships moving. Put the Rodney back in the North Sea. Duke of York and going to the Barents. Basically, I'm just trying to put the older, slower ships in either the Atlantic Ocean or North Sea. And we want at least 6 or 7 good ships in the Mediterranean to face the Italians. Put the Renown down there as well. The Revenge can go to the North Atlantic. I think I'll have to press the Nelson back into service. I need all the ships I can get, even though it's damaged. It's risky, but I put that strong offensive firepower to use. So I have the King George V in the Mediterranean now. Prince of Wales is going to have to go to either the Barents Sea or Mediterranean. And I think we'll put it in the Mediterranean. So there's no doubt that the British are now under strength in the North Sea and North Atlantic. But I have to be strong in the South Atlantic because the Gorizia and 2 other Axis ships have to sail there out of the neutral port. Prince Eugen, and I guess it is the Bismarck, yeah. So I can guess with a high degree of certainty that a lot of Axis units will be headed there to spring those units. Do some speed rolls now. Prince of Wales passes, Duke of York passes. Renown passes. Anson passes. And then King George V. Oh, got lucky with the speed rolls. So the Allies will redeploy at full strength. I think that takes care of all of them, yeah. So now we have to think what the Axis response will be. The Gorizia, Bismarck, and Prince Eugen must sail to the South Atlantic. And there are 5 Allied ships there. So we at least want to try to match the Allied presence. So at least 2 of the units out of France. Probably the Gneisenau. Admiral Scheer. Then we'll decide what the other 2 ones will do. They can go to the North Sea, North Atlantic, Barents with speed rolls. And I think the best option will in fact be just the North Sea. And they can link up with German ships coming out of Germany proper. At least the Fume will deploy into the North Sea, and Admiral Graf Spee match the Allied strength there. Deploy the Graf Zeppelin into the North Sea, along with the Tirpitz, and maybe use the Lutzow to claim the free Baltic again, since the Russians didn't show up. And what to do with the 4 wolf packs, that's going to be well, the British are the weakest in the North Sea, so could get, if I could chase the British out of the North Sea, that makes up for Convoy A1 arriving in Russia. And the Italians have to sail. Like, they just can't sit in port doing nothing. They're going to go for 4 consecutive turns. They are technically outnumbered, but still fairly strong. So that's going to be the strategic situation. It's going to be 3 big battles, one in the North Sea, one in the South Atlantic, and one in the Mediterranean. I think German land-based air will attack the Barents. So the Courageous is going to conduct some ASW here. He'll just work on the 3 top Wolfpack counters in sequence here. So the first roll is a hit. Second roll is a miss. Third roll is a miss. So they're going to get 2 more rolls because the Rodney also targeted the same wolf pack that the Courageous did. So, and we're going to get a disable result. So the Axis will at least have uncontrolled or contested the North Sea. So we'll have 1 Wolfpack attack the Courageous and 1 Wolfpack attack the Rodney. Okay. Ooh, the submarine hits the Courageous. Oh, unlucky. But that puts the Courageous's flight deck out of operation. So that's not insignificant. Let's see what the other Wolfpack can do to the Rodney. So we'll roll, and it's a miss. To do some land-based air, we'll target the Convoy 1A with first roll. Miss for the Luftwaffe, the Ark Royal. Miss, and then 1 targeting the Victorious. That's a miss also. So we'll have to do the British now. They can attack the Italians in the Med. So now would be a great time to actually find some success here. We'll target the first 3 ships in order here. Julius Caesar, then the Victorio. No, Littorio. That's also a miss. Wow, that's unbelievable. The British Air Force has been extremely disappointing and ineffective in this game. So now we have to do naval-based air power. So we'll do Formidables. Swordfish. Go with Vittorio first. Miss. Littorio. Ooh, a hit. Roll for damage. Ooh, 5. Significant damage. This is going to be very interesting. I have no idea what's going to happen here, but it's very important for the British to do well here. So we'll roll for the Renown first against the Julius Caesar. That's a hit and a disable result. Just gets a 1. We'll do the Anson next. It's the Vittorio. 4 rolls. That's going to be a hit and a disable. Three. Do the King George V against the Littorio. Oh, wow. 3 hits. It's sunk. Even if they're all ones. Nice. Do the Sussex against the Caudilio. That's a hit. Ooh, maximum damage. The Devonshire. That's a disabled result. And the Kent. It's a hit. And the Conti de Cavour. And a sink result. Wow. Good rolls for the British. 2 sunk ships for the Italians. Everything else damaged and or disabled. Okay, so the Italians will return fire, and I'm not sure they want to even adjust the pairings. I think the pairings are fine. They want to sink those British cruisers because they can get anywhere. So we'll do Julius Caesar first, so that's going to be 4 dice. That's going to be a disabled result on the Renown. The Vittorio. That's a disabled result on the Anson. The Littorio against the King George V. 2 hits. Eight. So they sank each other. The King George V and the Littorio sank each other. They're both eliminated. And the Dulio against the Sussex. That's disabled the Sussex. Oh, everything. Nothing's going to be left here. Andrea Doria versus the Devonshire. That's a hit. Devonshire sunk. The Conti de Cavour against the Kent. Kent is disabled. So this is going to require some cleanup here. Kent goes to Malta. Sussex goes to Malta. Anson goes to Malta. Renown goes to Malta. King George V, Littorio, Conti de Cavour, and Devonshire go to Davy Jones' locker in the Mediterranean. Now, incredibly, the Italians are going to retain control of the Mediterranean Sea because the Formidable has no way of dealing with damage caudillo, because naval air is only one round, and the formidable has no surface factors. And since it's faster than the Giulio, it will just retreat to Malta, leaving the Italians barely clinging to control in the Mediterranean. That's a huge victory for the Axis, actually, because that is basically going to cancel out most of the advantage of landing a convoy in Russia. So it was a costly action. I think one that was probably worth it for the Italians in the long run. That was unexpected. After the British first round of combat, I thought it was going to be a decisive victory for the Allies, but it's just not the case. Much of the damages can be repaired too in Italy. Not all of them, but... So let's deal with the Battle of the South Atlantic Ocean here. The Nelson's going to target the Bismarck. Put the Malaya on the Gneisenau. Yeah, that looks good. Good enough. This will be another good battle. This is probably the last big battle the Axis will be able to fight. Like a large-scale pitched surface engagement. So do the Ramillies on the Gorizia. That's a hit and a disabled. Oh, that was a mistake. It's just maximum damage. I have to get it back. There we go. So, resolution on Prince Eugen. It's a hit. It's a sync result. Valiant against Admiral Scheer. Miss. Malaya against Gneisenau. That's a miss. Ooh. So Nelson against the Bismarck. Oh, wow. Allied luck ran out there in a big, big way. Oh my gosh, this could get very, very costly for the Allies. So, do we want to rearrange the pairings? I don't think so. Gorizia will return fire. Miss. Prince Eugen. Miss. Suck. Admiral Scheer. 2 hits on the Valiant. That's probably going to sink it, I would think. Yeah. Gneisenau versus Malaya. That's a hit and a disable. Light damage. Okay, so we'll do the Bismarck. It doesn't have a targeting bonus because it's damaged. Still gets 4 dice. So let's get 2 hits and a disable. And the Nelson is dead. Oh man, that was a mistake for the British to sail that. It sailed it and it made no impact. It missed with all of its big guns. So the British are outnumbered now. I just want to get as many sync results, so I'm going to have to let the Bismarck off the hook here. Go after the small ships. Ramillies, a hit on the sheer. 4 sinks it, so that was a good decision. In the Resolution fight versus the Gneisenau. Come on, we need hits. Hitting a disabled. So roll for the hit. Oh, that was a good one. Somewhat makes up for the loss of Nelson. So the return fire, yeah, there's no need to adjust the pairings. So we'll do the sheer first against the Ramillies. That is disabled result. Disabled results as well. Uh-oh. So 2 hits on the Resolution. Yeah, so a couple of corrections. The Bismarck should have only rolled 2 dice there, but I just took or it should have got 2 hits, but I just took the first 2 results. And the Ramillies should be disabled here. And that should end the battle. Okay, so action in the North Sea. Okay, so we'll use the Graf Zeppelin's naval air power now. 1 against the Courageous, 1 against the Rodney. Ooh, gets a hit on the Courageous. That's going to sink the Courageous. It's already at maximum damage, so good job. The Stukas, naval Stukas, I guess they must have been. And then against the Rodney misses. Okay, so now the British. Line the Rodney up against a Tirpitz. 5 dice, so that's going to be 2 hits and a disabled. Five. We'll do the Royal Oak against the Admiral Graf Spee. That's going to be 1 hit. It's going to sink the Graf Spee. Royal Sovereign against the Fume. It's a hit. It sinks the Fume as well. So the German counterattack could be a rule against using the surface factors of the carriers in the same turn as using the naval, but that I'll allow it. So we'll just have 5 rolls. This is going to be bad for the Rodney, I predict. So it's going to be 2 hits. Yeah, that's going to sink the Rodney. Tirpitz is done. Fume gets his hit on the Royal Sovereign. Oh my gosh. Wow. Royal Sovereign and Fume sunk each other. That's unexpected. Graf Spee. It's going to get a hit. And maximum damage. So the Royal Oak and the Graf Spee can fight it out at even odds. But the Germans don't want to risk the Graf Spee. They've already uncontrolled the North Sea. They unexpectedly won battles in the South Atlantic and Mediterranean, so it's not worth it. And the North Sea is, well, it's going to be uncontrolled anyway because of the U-boats. Now, if you look, even if the Allies deliver Convoy 1A to Russia, that's 3 plus 1 for the Barents, and 1 for the North Atlantic. The Axis still have 2 points, 3 points. Let's see. The Allies are going to get 1. They're going to get 5 points, but the Axis will have 1, 4, 5, 6. the Allies still couldn't move the point scale up because they lost those 2 important sea zones, South Atlantic and Mediterranean, more than made up for the Axis. Victories on the seas more than made up for delivery of supplies into Russia this turn. So now the Germans and the Italians are going to start to feel attrition for sure, especially if the Allies can finally get the Americans and Russians into the battle. The Axis will have to be a lot more careful in choosing their battles because they are quite reduced in numbers, but they still have that large point cushion. It's going to be interesting. Will the Axis be able to win those sea battles for just in the nick of time for the delivery of Convoy 2B and 3C to Russia. They're going to be hard pressed to do so, but it's not outside the realm of possibility here. I'm not sure what's going to happen actually. From now until the end of the game, the Axis mainly get U-boats. The Italians do get more ships, a couple of really good battleships actually. But next turn, oh yeah, it's going to be close. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen here. I really don't. Anyway, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for episode 3, turns 5 and 6.